This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Okay, I am going to have Elton open the security door.
It opens.
And all right then. Crib just looks inside to see what's left of the cargo.
You see boxes, like lots of boxes.
All right, do we have any idea what's in them? I'm going to move over to examine the first one. What do I need to roll?
Yeah, you don't need to roll. Don't bother. It's seeds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seeds. We took out a platoon of Imperial troopers.
And blew up two assault ships. Plus, two spies on Gratuitous 5 tried to kill themselves rather than reveal the cargo location.
For seeds?
Yeah. Why not seeds?
Are they special seeds? What kind of seeds are they?
I don't know, like space wheat.
That's not much of a haul.
Wow. Phil, is everything all right? Something on par for your usual adventures.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I'm not feeling this adventure anymore. I don't know. Maybe it's time to do something else.
Okay. I mean, I can run something next time. There's something I want to play test. How do you guys feel about playing pizza delivery guys?
And with that, welcome to the 441st episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. Tonight we explore how to deal with GM Burnout. Along the way, we take your suggestions, comments, and examples from the live chat room for life before heading into the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan. Welcome back to another Misdirected Mark episode. Time for us to do the temperature check thing. See how everybody's doing. How's everybody feeling, Phil?
Well, I'm actually feeling pretty good, my friend.
Woo-hoo.
I am physically feeling pretty well. Better rested. Got some having some good sleeps.
Yeah.
Just overall physically feeling pretty okay. And mentally, I'm also doing pretty well. Like feeling pretty good. Spirits are up. And I think you know what, I'm good to go. How about you, Jer?
Pretty good. Work has been good. I've been getting a little bit more sleep. Mentally, I've been a little game burned out. I just haven't had a lot of creativity. My GMing has kind of slipped. I haven't done a lot of like role-playing game stuff, and I haven't done a lot of role-playing game interactions. That's been kind of, you get that little dip point in your life where nothing creative's going on, which is why tonight's topic is so timely. But I'm not like in a depression or anything like that. I'm still just kind of in a funk and kind of coming out of it. I've been doing a lot of cleaning and stuff to kind of make up for it.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Tired because every opportunity I get, I got to try and do a little cleaning, a little packing, a little rearranging to get the house ready for sale. So, ready for moving out. It's already sold. So, a little tired, but otherwise doing pretty good physically, mentally, feeling pretty good. Looking forward to, getting through all of this house and condo stuff and getting started on the next season of Bob. So, doing pretty good.
Next season of Bob.
Now I want to go out and I want to get a sound bite of Wanda Maximoff saying "Spirits lifted."
Right.
Nice.
All right. So let's roll on into the one thing. Oh, look what I said. I said roll.
I know. I figure since you said roll on in, you should go first.
So I would just like to say that rollerblade wheels are the bomb. Whoever decided to put rollerblade wheels on a chair should be given the Nobel Peace Prize, or the Nobel Prize in something, in ergonomics. I don't know, chair technology. Let's make up a new category if we have to. The standard casters are no longer viable for me. After rolling around on Phil's chairs, when he replaced his casters on all his rolly chairs with the rollerblade wheels. I'm like, I got to get some of these. So I got mine today. They came in and I put them on before the show. And I'm like, this chair is fabulous now. I will never go back to another chair with casters on it. It should be illegal to put regular casters on a chair that has wheels. They should automatically put rollerblade wheels on them.
Yeah, they're not even terribly expensive per pack. They're like $12 to $15 a pack. And the only thing you have to be aware of, if you have any height restrictions with your chairs, is that it does raise the chair up like another inch or so. So like I have them on the chairs in the game, like around the game table, but I don't have them on the I don't have them on my office chair, because my office chair, like the way my desk is, there's this drawer that's supposed to be like the tray where you put the keyboard and mouse and stuff. And if I go up another inch or two, I would like be crushed against it. So
that's unfortunate, because I checked mine out. I lowered my chair to see if it would go lower, so that when it raised up with the wheels, I would have the room to do it. And it's absolutely fine. I'm like, still,
it's great.
I have like it's still a good like inch of clearance before I could whack my legs on this tray. So I made out lucky on that one.
Excellent. Rollerblade wheels are the bomb, and boy, do they roll. And they roll on carpet. They roll on hardwood. They're fantastic.
Yep. All right, Jerry, what's your one thing?
It's Friday. We watched Heat, a movie that I have never seen before. I'd heard wonderful things about it. I've seen a couple clips of it. I knew it was, a bunch of amazing actors doing some amazing work with an amazing director. So last Friday, we went over to the new Casa de Phil, and we watched Heat. And had amazing cookie butter and other stuff like that. But it was just a lot of fun. It was really just a good cop movie. Had you rooting for the bad guys through the entire thing, and it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And it lived up, a movie that lived up to all the hype. So that was always good.
I was nervous.
Oh yeah. Phil, the only time movies, like I said, I don't mind a slow moving movie as long as it's slow moving with like good characters, good dialogue, and they're not just stretching the movie out just to pad for time.
No, they
I like, I've liked a lot of good slow moving, dramas, comedies, everything. Just don't do it with no point in mind. That's all. That's the only difference. Yep. So
that is fair. No, I think Heat does a good job of that. It's it's long, but it's well plotted, and you get a lot of side stories and stuff like about minor characters and things like that. So
they make you care about all the characters, and once you've got a good character, I'll watch them do anything as long as they're doing something. If they're just standing around spending 2 minutes showing you everybody in the bar, that's a different thing entirely. But this movie doesn't do that. When there's something on screen, there's a reason for it. And it's building the story, building the characters, building the background, building the plot, building the dialogue, building the tension, all that stuff, in such a good way that I thought was excellent.
Yay.
So. All right, Phil?
Well, I'm going to change my background real quick. I'm in my new place. I am no longer recording from Studio 5, the basement. I have moved out into my apartment. I'm right now in my office without my video background on. That is the daybed, the Star Wars daybed behind me with the awesome pink pillow. But I am sitting at my actual full desk. And instead of recording this like I usually do, sitting downstairs in the basement on a 13-inch MacBook Pro, I am getting to record this with both my screens. So I have 48 inches of glorious space ahead of me. I'm front and backlit. I am not going to be cold when the weather changes. I assume we'll be recording in person by then, but in case we're not for any reason, like I won't be freezing.
Yep.
All of those things. So yeah, I've been it's been just over it's been like a little over a week. It was a week on Friday when you guys came out for Heat. That was a week since I've been in the apartment. And on Saturday, so 8 days into the apartment, I unpacked the last box. which I couldn't have done without Jerry's generosity. Jerry had an extra bookcase that he didn't need. So I spent Saturday morning, afternoon, brunch time, putting the bookcase together. And then once I got it in, I was able to unpack my novels. And the bookcase looks fabulous. It's exactly what I wanted and exactly where I wanted it. And so I took out to the garbage the last of my moving boxes, and I am now officially moved in. It's lovely. I still need my couch to come. My couch isn't getting here till August. So I'm just kind of existing on a chair and some extra camping chairs for seats for other people. Or you can just roll in the office chairs, right? The rolly chairs.
Yep.
Roll right in.
That's what we did.
But yeah, like it's good. Like I've been cooking every night. In fact, so first of all, I'm sleeping better. I'm sleeping on my new mattress. It's amazing. I'm super comfortable. Like I'm getting great sleep every night. I've been cooking nearly all my own food. Like I've only eaten out with you guys on game nights. So I'm only eating out like once a week. So I feel like a ton better. Like I'm just making good food and doing that. And work's been pretty chill. So I was like able to get settled in here without having to like put fires out at work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. Like it's just good. I feel a lot better.
There
like
you go.
If you've been worried about me over the last couple months, I can say that this is the inflection. Like last week when we didn't record was like the inflection point where I went from like not good to starting to be good, and we're building up from there.
Yeah.
So
and
cool. Well,
I'm sure the sleep portion of that is a heavy component, because lack of sleep, proper sleep, will do a lot of shit to you.
Oh yeah, I'm still working on weeknights of getting my sleep up to a reasonable, to a more reasonable amount of time. It is better, but what I have noticed is like my Apple Watch has a sleep tracker on it, and so one of the things like it tells you is how well you're sleeping. Like it just gives you a percentage, but it tells you basically like how well you're sleeping based on how much movement you have like while you sleep. And so I was like at like between 35 and 40% a night before I moved into the apartment. And now I'm like somewhere between 50 and 70% sleep quality every night, like when I sleep. So like I don't even feel busted up. Like this mattress is like the perfect amount of soft and support.
Yeah.
So like things that used to hurt me don't hurt me. I just like, I wake up in the morning and I just like feel good, like ready to start the day. So
awesome.
It's good. It's good. I'll talk about like some more specific stuff about like, you know, you guys being over and stuff like that when we get into the community corner, but I do want to run through a few announcements because we do have a couple. And I know Bob's got one as well. So I'll do two and then I'll give one over to Bob. And then we'll jump into the main topic. So first announcement is I want to announce that we're having a summer break. So yes, we're on the air today, but we will be off for the next 2 weeks. We're just it's summer and we got, you know, a bunch of stuff going on, and, you know, Bob's getting ready to move out and stuff like that. And so we're just going to take 2 weeks off. And what that means for our live audience is there's no live show on the 13th or the 20th. But we will be back live on the 27th. What that means, if you are listening to us when the podcast drops, is that there is no show that's going to be dropping the week of the 20th and the week of the 27th. You will get your next show on the first week of August. So the week of August 3rd, 2nd or 3rd, I think.
Yeah. They drop on Tuesday. So
they drop on Tuesday. So your next one will be August 3rd. So we'll come back and see you in August. And we're just going to take some time off and relax. If you are a live listener and also worried about the watch parties will be continuing, and that'll segue into our next topic as well. But watch parties will be continuing on Tuesdays. Just no live shows on the 13th and the 20th. Okay. And we'll put up announcements on social media, Slack room, and all that, like when we come back live, so that we, can have you guys, all join us again. But in the meantime, take a little time in the summer, relax. We are. And August will be an exciting month. Okay, that was our first announcement. My first announcement. My second announcement is just a reminder: the Voyager Watch Party is now heading into week 18, and we are entering season 7, the final season of Voyager. I'm pretty sure we're watching most of the episodes in season 7, so I think there will be a couple of bonus, but I think for like the next couple of weeks, we are basically just going to watch our way through the vast majority of the episodes. They're all very good. If I did my calculations correctly, don't hold me to this, but I believe that August 3rd will actually be the finale for Voyager. So cool. We will all we'll get together live on the show, and then we'll have one last watch party as we get ready to say goodbye to Voyager, which I think has been a fantastic run.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So glad I decided to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm glad too, right? This is like my second run through, and I'm finding that I love it even more watching it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Cool, Bob.
Yeah, our last announcement for the night is the forums. Misdirected Mark Forums Dice Bag giveaway continues through July 30th. Some may be going, but that's not the last day of July. Why didn't you just make the 31st? Because A, I forgot there was a 31st, and B, it's a Friday. The 30th is a Friday, and I wanted to be able to take that weekend, specifically Saturday, sift through all the entries, make sure I had my ducks in a row to get the winners, so that the following show we could make the announcement of who won the thing. So yes, now through July 30th, you can still enter by going to the Misdirected Mark Forums. There will be a link in the show notes, and go to the introductions topic and introduce yourself. Say hello to everybody, and hopefully you'll be one of our winners. Yay! All right. And that, my friends, will lead us into our wonderful topic of tonight, which, Phil, are you ready?
Yes. Workshop. It's all about GM burnout. Oh, I can't do another one of these openings. How am I ever going to keep this up? I'm running out of steam ideas. I'm running out of passion to run anything. Oh no, the burnout is coming. We're going to talk about how to get around the burnout, and how to cure it, and how to get back into your gaming here in the workshop.
And don't suck.
Not my best one.
That one went a little long, but
it went a little long. I lost my space. Like, I don't know.
It's all right. You're burned out on the workshopping, Phil, is what you are.
Workshop burnout. So.
I don't know. I'm going to get, that's like a solid C+ on that one. Like, not.
So, this is going to be our workshop on GM burnout. Kind of came out of some different ideas. Something I'm actually kind of going through right now myself, so it was very timely. But looking back, it's kind of surprising that there are 421 episodes, and all the shit we've been through, we never really talked about GM burnout.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if we did, like, we forgot the episode, because like, or it's like super old, because I don't remember doing this topic.
And I looked, trust me, I dug deep, and as far back as before I started, like to around the time I started, and couldn't find one. So
I legitimately don't think we've ever done one.
Yeah,
that's a rare occurrence for us not to have done a topic. But that's fair.
Right. Because GM burnout is actually a real thing. And every year, many GMs just stop running games for a period of time, and some of them never return. So tonight we're going to talk about what GM burnout is, how does it happen, how you can recover from it, and hopefully how you can prevent it.
All right. But first, of course, we have to set up definitions. So,
behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
What do you got for us, Phil?
Oh, yeah. Well, we got, of course, the key word for tonight is burnout. Physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. Oh,
Yeah.
This phrase just hits me. I haven't been suffering from GM burnout, but I've been very close on the verge of work burnout, and physical or mental collapse is exactly correct. So I want to tease out a few pieces of this definition just to kind of expand upon them, right? The first one is physical or mental collapse.
Meaning that when you're burnt out, just shut down. You can't do any more. Just hit you hard, and that's it.
Yeah, it's pretty rough actually. Like when it hits, and we'll talk about it more as we get into the segment. But when it hits, it is it's hard to get anything done. The next one I want to talk about is overworked. Right? That's pretty obvious.
Basically, you're just doing too much work. You're doing too much all at once, and this could be too much of one kind of work, or it could just be too much work overall in your entire life. Either way, you have to keep that in mind because it might not be overworking in one area or another, but just overall as a cumulative thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people who are like, no, the game's not too much. The game's not too much work. And then it's like, well, what else is going on in your life? And it's like, well, I'm doing this and this and this and this. And it's like, like, yeah. All right, next one I want to talk about is stress.
This is the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. And stress can be caused by any number of things. Your work, your family, gaming, finances, health, the state of the world outside. Any of this can add to your stress. And when that happens, it can just overwhelm you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no end to the list of where stress comes from. So, and it'll be, that's also going to be very personal to you. There are things that some people stress about and other people don't, those kinds of things. Okay. So, expanding from burnout, let's talk about GM burnout, right? GM burnout. This is when a GM has a physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress and is unwilling or unable to GM or possibly even play. And in most cases, I'm going to say this, like in most cases, my experience is this is a mental collapse. Like when you kind of hit GM burnout, like you just kind of shut down mentally about it. I don't know if anyone's ever physically collapsed from GM burnout, but it's definitely like it's entirely possible depending on how you process stress. Regardless of how it manifests, the end result is the same, right? The GM does not want to or cannot GM their game. Like they just stop. Now, burnout can manifest either quickly or slowly.
It's quickly. This means that some confluence of events has occurred recently that just overworks or stresses the GM in a very quick timeline. But slowly, things could occur where they just slowly build up and stay built up, and the GM finally feels overworked or stressed. It doesn't see it as any relief coming up.
Mm-hmm. And burnout comes in two forms.
Obviously, if it's temporary, the thing's there. It typically goes away after taking a little time off, and soon your GM is up and ready to run some games again. But oftentimes it becomes long-term, and this goes on and on, even after things get better. And things might become less stressful, but the GM just doesn't feel like they want to return to what's going on with GMing itself.
Yeah. So now that we understand what it looks like, let's talk about how it happens. Jerry, what can you tell us about how GM burnout occurs?
So let's go back to the keywords for the definition. Overwork and stress. We're going to start there. If the GM is overworked, it's going to come from basically several different sources. Phil?
Yeah. So, for example, like it's been a hard semester and the GM has several large projects coming up and there's a person that's like out at work. So, you're picking up extra shifts and, now the group's finished the, last part of the adventure that you were running. So now like you're feeling stressed and overworked because like on top of everything that's going on, you now have to prep like a new game. Like a new adventure where before like you were just running, the thing that you prepped before, but now you got to like prep a whole new adventure. And so suddenly you're feeling stressed and overworked and, that burnout kind of starts setting in.
I think that happens from a single source, which could be the game itself.
Yeah. So like, for instance, the game has recently advanced to a new tier of play, right? So like maybe you guys leveled up and reached a new tier. And session planning has gotten a lot more complicated, right? Like what used to be like, oh, in an hour, I can prep this whole thing and we're good to go. But now at this tier of play, like you're looking at 3 to 4 hours of prep per session if you really want to like get stat blocks and all of those things, done out correctly.
It goes from being fun to being work.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes.
Yep. So in addition to overwork, you've also got stress. And stress can be coming from any number of places in their life. It could be coming from outside of the game.
Right. The GM and their partner now have a new child. Super stressful. The work of parenting and taking care of a new child is manageable, but like your sleep is impacted. There's all sorts of like new parenting stress. Like, are we doing this right? The first time the kid gets a fever, like all of those things, right? Like, totally can just kind of, can create stress on somebody as they're also, GMing your game.
No, the stress could also be coming from inside of the game.
Yeah, I mean, let's not neglect that, right? Recently, like one of your players has been arguing with another player every session. And so while the groups talked about it, it's not resolved. And so every game, the two of them start bickering with each other. And like, as your job as the GM, like you're working extra hard to kind of keep the table settled, doing and worrying, like, are they going to start bickering with each other again? Can they just get through, a game without fighting with each other? Like what's going on here, builds up stress about the game.
Remember, it can also be something that just isn't even between players. It could be something as simple as the game itself has reached a point where it's not quite as much fun. So and that can cause a lot of stress itself, just by the nature of the game.
Mm-hmm. So
it's honestly one or the other. You can be overworked and stress. One of them can be from real life. One can be about the game. You can mix and match them. It's a great little game to play. Where's my stress and where's my overwork coming from?
Yeah, it's great.
All places.
Yeah,
it's great. So,
yeah. And that's the thing you have to be aware of is like, as we talk about this, like you can't just look at like, what's the game doing, right? Like you got to look at like, what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little later. I want to bring up something called the GMing energy cycle. No patent pending on that name, but it'll suffice for what we need to talk about tonight. To really understand GM burnout, we really need to understand the energy cycle that a GM goes through. In all things, we at times expend energy, right? Physical or emotional energy. And at other times we get or generate physical or emotional energy, right? So sometimes things we do, are kind of draining, and sometimes things we do kind of fill us up. And GMing is no different, right? As GMs, we are always in this cycle of spending energy and gaining energy. And it's a little different for each of us based on things that like things that we like about GMing and things we are less comfortable about GMing, those kinds of things. But in general, I'm just going to use this as a very general fact. There'll always be people who are different, but stick with me here. In general, it kind of works like this, right? We expend energy when
we're prepping a game and getting things ready.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe when we're trying to learn a new rules or setting or system, trying to manage this with the table. Spend energy when you're running a game and it's not going well, or it's having issues, or it's not moving at the speed you want. All those things can take up your energy.
Exactly, right? You're like putting energy in to kind of push these things through. We gain energy though
when there's something to come with cool ideas and you have inspiration. I've got this great new idea for a game, or I have this scenario I want to run. That gives you lots of energy. Just whenever at the table's having a good time, you're sitting there watching your friends and enjoying interacting with them and seeing how the game is moving, and they're all just having a great time, and that's just contagious. And sometimes when you're just running a game when things are exciting and fun and everybody's involved and things are moving at a good speed, that can give us back some energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we as people, again, I'm just going to keep extending this concept forward, right? We as people have a finite amount of energy in any given day, week, month, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And some portion of that energy is going to be dedicated to the games you're running, but it's still a finite level.
Exactly.
You can't dedicate all your energy just to running games.
Even if you could, it still would be finite.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you didn't have a job or anything else, you would still be spending some amount of time on gaming. So the trick here is what we want is when we're running games, we want to generate more energy than we expend. We want our gaming to be a net positive.
Basically, you want to get more out of the game than you're putting into it. And that's possible. In addition, you want to see good positive energies also make it to other parts of your life less stressful. Being in the game and playing makes the rest of your life better.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's the whole purpose of playing role-playing games. It's a form of recreation. It's a social activity. They put it in the vernacular, sometimes they'll give you back some spoons. And it's one of those things where if everybody's working together, you can get a lot more out of it than anybody puts in cumulative together. It just feeds on itself in a good way.
Yep.
Exactly. And you know this, right? Like, you know, when you've run a good episode, like you get the GM high.
Yep.
Like, I know when I get it, like I get like excited and I'm chatty and I'm like, oh, the game and blah, blah, blah. Like there'll be times like when I've run games and like I've, left the game and I'm driving home and I call Senda and I'm like, oh, the game and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I got to dump the whole thing out to her because I'm like super excited about it. And like, that's that positive energy, right? Like that's part of that. Like, it charged me up. Like, I have good, positive, emotional energy and even physical, because if I've run a really good game, I often just can't go to sleep right after the game.
Oh, no.
Like, I am like, no, I'm up for a while. Like, like we're up. Okay. So net positive is where we want to be. What we don't want is if our game turns into a net negative.
Yep. And by that, we mean you're putting more energy into the game than you're getting out of it. That energy is going to be coming from someplace else, which is going to be drawing away from something else. And this is going to create additional worker stress. We head into a burnout. It's going to be a vicious cycle. If you're constantly putting more into a game than you get out of it positively, you're just going to eventually burn out and take it out of other parts of your life as well.
Exactly, right? We want gaming to be a net positive. When it is, it's something that gives us energy, but it also makes other parts of our lives more pleasant. I know that, we typically play on Sunday nights. I know that if I have a really good game on a Sunday, like just a really good round the table, having a good time, hitting a good story or whatever, like that makes Monday just a little more bearable. Right? Like it's just a little better when I go in onto work, like when I, log into work on Monday, because it's like, oh yeah, cool game and I'm feeling good. And it's like, well, it's Monday, but whatever. Like, I had a good game last night, like kick ass. Let's go, let's get this week done and let's get to the next game on the other side. Right. So we know that's true.
Yep. All right. But what we're concerned about is when a game goes from being a net positive to being a net negative. Now, games aren't always going to be net positive, but it might even be net negative. But overall, we want it to be positive more often than negative. You're always going to have a game that doesn't quite go the way you want. But overall, you should be seeing your games being a positive as opposed to just being kind of a downer and draining and contributing to that burden. If the game gets stuck being a net negative, then we have a risk of turning into the entire... Start again. If we end up where a game continues to be a net negative, you have a chance of becoming a full burning afterwards.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you can have a bad session or even part of a bad session, right? Like, you can start off a game and it's like it's just kind of sucking energy out of you, and then by the end it picks up and you're feeling good. Or you can just have like one bad game. That's not the beginning of burnout, right? But like when your game is always draining energy, like that's how you start. Like, exactly.
Twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern, or something along those lines, right?
Yeah. So to kind of sum this up, right? Like, I just want to touch on the 3 things before I kick it to Bob for the next section. So stresses, right? Stresses can be a thing that leads to burnout. Overwork in any area of your life can lead to burnout. And when your game goes net negative, can lead to, and your game could go net negative for the other 2 reasons, or just in general. Like it's, so consider all 3 of these things as we keep talking.
Yeah. Big picture. All right. So with that understanding of what can lead to burnout, what does it look like? Phil, how can we be aware of the signs so that we can address it before it becomes critical? Yeah.
So burnout doesn't just like kick on, right? Like it builds up. So what does it look like, right? It has phases. And for simplicity's sake, because none of this stuff is ever documented by experts, and we make up a lot of this stuff as we just write the notes. We're just going to call this like early, mid, and late burnout. I'm going to just draw heavily on my own experiences of GM burnout. And these are going to be somewhat arbitrary, and depending on how you process stress and other things, you may have all of these steps. You may skip one of these steps. You may go from early to late, or you may not even have it early. You may just go mid to late, whatever. But I think as we describe these phases, you'll recognize some of these signs. So let's start with early. What does early burnout start to look like, Jer?
First of all, you've had some mental resistance to the game. I don't know if I want to play this week, kind of thing.
I don't know if I want to prep.
Yeah, you know what, maybe, or the minute anybody gives you any sort of resistance to playing this week, you're like, yeah, we're just going to cancel. I don't know if I can make it this week. All right, we'll just skip this week. This is going to be mild if you easily overcome. You're going to cut a few corners in prep. For the most part, your prep is still good for running the game, but you're going to feel tired at the end of the session, and you're not getting any energy out of running the game. At the end of the game, you're like, okay, we had fun, kind of thing.
Maybe you had fun.
Maybe.
No, the tone of my voice.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
We had fun,
Exactly.
that kind of thing. That's
so
how I look at it.
So from early, we move into mid, range burnout.
Yep. At this point, your mental resistance to the game is much greater. You're procrastinating any kind of game-related tasks. You're not doing prep, you're not scheduling, you're not reading. You're going to be easily distracted by other things and other games. You're half-assing your prep. It's not going to be detailed enough. You're not right enough. And running the game becomes a chore. You're thankful when the session's over, and you're relieved when everyone leaves. And again, as I said, if anyone cancels coming to the game, you just cancel the game entirely.
Oh, yeah. Like one person cancels, you're like, oh, we can't play tonight.
Yep.
Whew, we don't have to play.
Yep. And
okay.
And the thing is, you'll notice this because you feel relieved.
Yes.
When you cancel the game.
Yeah. You're like, oh, good.
You know what?
I don't have to run tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to go sit and watch some more cartoons, whatever.
I'm gonna jump on the computer, play some games or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's get to late stage burnout.
At this point, your mental resistance to the game is solid. Absolutely. You're actively avoiding doing any gaming tasks. You're not doing any prep at all. You're bare minimum getting the table. Even that is really frustrating and painful to you. You're at the point now where you're showing up, and that's basically it. Just thinking of running the game fills you with dread and depression, and you're canceling the game for any reason or no reason at all. I'm just not up for it this week. I want to cancel it. I'm not sure what's going on, but we're just not going to have a game this week. Oops, I forgot to reschedule, and so we're not going to do a game this week. Whatever. Anything you can, you just start to cancel because that gives you some relief.
Yeah.
All right. So now we understand what GM burnout looks like and what happens. So let's talk about what we can do before we get it. Jerry, how do we prevent GM burnout?
Well, the first thing you want to do is look for it and see the start of it and address it before it gets to late and mid stage while it's still in the early stages. Be mindful about what it looks like. It's going to be most important that you recognize it at the early stage because it's going to be hard for people on the outside to recognize early stage GM burnout. Because they're not going to see the things you're doing behind the scenes. They're not going to see your reactions and feelings right after that. However, once it's recognized, then you want to sit down and figure out what's causing it.
Yeah, you got to start, this is the part where you got to sit down and start being introspective and start asking yourself some questions, right? Is there an increase of work in the game or elsewhere, right? Is the game now harder to run? Are there things going on in your life, like a new project that you're working on outside of the game? Are you moving? Are you selling your house? Is the end of semester coming and you've got finals? Do you have a big project coming up for work? All of those things, right? Those are places where additional work starts to creep into your life.
Now, the second thing is there an increase in stress? Are there things that you are worried about in your life? Again, moving relationships, getting sick, big projects, too many things being put on your plate. Are those causing you stress? Or is there something in the gaming group itself that's causing stress? Are players not getting along? Are you feeling too challenged or not challenged enough? Are they not feeling challenged enough? Is nobody paying attention when the game is going on? All those sorts of things can cause your stress.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that could cause stress in a game is like you feel like you're not doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if the game is going well, even if people are having fun, if you as a GM don't feel like you're doing a good job, like then it's even more stressful because no one wants to do a bad job at something, right? Like like I used to suck at playing guitar, and like after a while I dreaded playing guitar because I just wasn't very good at it, and eventually it was just better not to play.
Yeah.
Right? Like so if you think you're doing a bad job, that can be a problem, which as a sidebar here, players, honest feedback to your GM is really critical.
Yep.
If your GM's doing a good job, you need to tell them, because I have gotten in my own head before, and I'm sure it's happened to you guys too. I've gotten in my own head where I've thought like, oh, this game isn't working. And once that burrows in deep enough, I'm like, oh, this game's got to go.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God, the session was terrible. You know, the players need to step up and go, no, it was great. We had a ball.
And we enjoyed this and we enjoyed that.
And that's one of my reasons for the 4-session rule. Like I never kill a game until I've played 4 sessions of it, because I assume that at least the first 1 or 2 sessions aren't going to be that great.
Yeah. And the same thing that goes into those of you who have ever taken writing classes, same thing goes into with your GM. Be specific. In addition to, that was a lot of fun. Say, that was a lot of fun. I really liked this part of it. Or I thought that, I thought this character was really interesting to interact with. Yeah, but they screwed you over. Yeah, but it was fun getting screwed over by them. They were entertaining. Or I really liked that car chase, that kind of thing.
Exactly. I really like these mechanics. I think these like I love where my character's going. I can't wait to play more to see. Yeah, like anything like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because then the GM will take that much more to heart. Having somebody simply tell them you're doing a good job, while that could be heartfelt and honest, doesn't feel the same as somebody telling you you did a really good job and I thought this was cool. Yeah,
there's no
it doesn't just tell the GM what was awesome. It tells them what are the things that you actually enjoyed. What can they hook on and give them more things to work on in the future.
Yeah,
because when they get that downtime, they'll get that feeling where well, I don't know what to do in the next session, but wait, Bob said he really likes this, so I'm just gonna stick another scene like that into the game.
Yeah,
and that'll fill in that gap, and then I'll have a good time with it. Go ahead, Phil.
Let me just jump in real quick, because as the Queen said in the chat room, when you do give your feedback, if there's any criticism, you be gentle with that criticism. You don't want to be like, oh, that other part sucked. Like, no, you want to be like, yeah, I thought maybe, like the motivation of the lieutenant wasn't really clear, but overall they were a really interesting character to interact with, and that part was great. But maybe, you could have given us a little bit more about what was motivating them, because we weren't 100% sure or something. You gotta use tact.
Yeah, there's a level of being candid but kind.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing that you need to look at introspection wise is pull us out of that sidebar on criticism and back into being introspective about where your burnout's coming from. That last one is starting to think about, is this game a net positive or net negative? And the easiest way to determine that is when the session is over, are you energized? Are you excited? Because if you're not, then it may not be a net positive. Now, I will caveat that with, if this is your first or second session of the game, it's going to be pretty hard for it to be a net positive. There are some games right out of the gate you can get a good net positive out of, but a lot of games are going to be either net neutral, or they're going to be a little rough depending on how well you grokked the rules and got the game off the ground or whatever.
Yeah, you gotta give it time.
If you're in the middle of a campaign and suddenly your game is a net negative, that's that's a thing you need to start thinking about. Why?
Yep.
Why is it a net negative? What has changed or what has happened?
So hopefully this is going to give you a chance to reveal the cause or causes for what's causing this burnout. Once you determine your cause, now you got to figure out what you do to address it and how. But this is going to vary depending on what it is and how it's happening. So here are some very general ways things can be dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. We're going to give some very broad strokes here because there are so many ways you could feel stressed or overworked or whatever. Like, there's no way we can address all of them. So here's just some general ideas behind that, right? First of all, if whatever is troubling you is going to just be for a finite amount of time, like I just have to like get through this move, right? Like you can just stop running until that thing passes, right? Like, oh, the holidays are coming up. I'm super stressed out. You know, it'd be good. Let's not have to run any games until the holidays are over. Right. That's a real easy way to kind of deal with that.
That's one of the reasons why we've almost always had a holiday hiatus with all of our
in our gaming groups. Absolutely.
Yep. If it's a more permanent change, you might have to reevaluate your time and priorities for the game if possible. Maybe your job schedule is shifted and now you're working that ends halfway through your normal game session. So now you're having trouble gaming or you're rushing your sessions to only get half sessions in. Maybe it's time to move to another night and just take that stress off again. Anything along that line can be any sort of permanent change. You might have to just readjust your entire gaming schedule and your gaming lifestyle and do something that works for everybody.
I mean, the hard parts of this might be that, like, for instance, like, let's say you went from like a part-time job to a full-time job and, like your time is shrunk and, you were playing 40K plus you were playing Magic plus you were doing role-playing games. Like, this might be the time where you're like, you know what? I don't think I can do all three of these on a regular basis. Like, I think I'm going to, like not worry about playing Magic and just, focus on my 40K and my gaming, and shrink, like, because there is a finite amount of time, energy, and schedule that you have. And if, you're feeling the crunch of it, trying to like run your game because you're running out of time because something else in your life has expanded, like you then have to try to cut something back. So yes. So that, that's what we're talking about there. If the game is too complicated, in the time that you have, consider running a different game. Like, yes, you love running, super complicated Crunchmaster 5000. But, your new job doesn't like afford you the, 7 to 8 hours it takes to prep Crunchmaster 5000. So maybe you just, you want to play, pass the stick game. I'm just being very hyperbolic here, right?
Yeah.
Like, but like we all know,
it makes sense.
We all know there are games that are easier to prep and run than other games.
Yep.
And if you just don't have the time, like, then you may need to find a new game. I will also caveat that with, if you don't have the time to prep your game, you can also, to plug one of my own books, you could also look at something like Never Unprepared, which talks about like, how do you pare down your prep? Because I wrote that book when I was about to become a parent and was going to have far less time to prep my games than I was used to, and started working on how do I cut that down to something I could do in a smaller amount of time. So that would be the other part, is actually look at improving your own prep to make yourself more efficient.
Yep.
All right. And lastly, if the problems are in the group itself, address the problem. You might have to remove some members that cannot change or are just unwilling to change, and go from there. Yep. Sometimes you just have to say, we have to make some changes to this gaming group and move on. And I think all of us have been in game groups that have had to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's tough. I mean, we know that, not to get too deep into this, but, we know like when our friend groups and our game groups overlap, remove members is not always the easiest thing.
Yep.
But if your game has become a net negative and you can identify like it's a net negative because this person is killing it.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to do the uncomfortable thing.
Yep.
So if you can make these adjustments in that early phase of burnout, you have a good chance things will go back to normal and your gaming will recover. And you'll end up getting away from the burnout in the long run.
Exactly. So if we're lucky, we can head off more severe burnout. But what if we can't? What if a GM burns out? How can someone recover from that, Phil?
Yeah. So if you have progressed past the early stage, right, and can't head it off, you burn out. Your recovery from burnout will always need a little downtime. The Puritan just power through, or as Coach Collins, my high school gym teacher, would say, walk it off, is probably not the best course of action, right? Just walk it off is probably not what you want to do here. So you do need to take that downtime. You need to give yourself permission to stop the game and like recover. Because if you just try to push through, you'll just be more resentful.
I would say that, at least from my own personal experience, I think that taking any life advice from high school gym teachers is probably not a good idea.
Coach Collins was a unique man. He used to run the gym class by standing off to the side and hitting golf balls, not at us, but he would hit golf balls off to the side and hardly pay attention to us. And then if anyone got hurt, he'd just be like, walk it off. Yeah. You're fantastic. My peak of my education. Okay. So your best bet when you hit this mid to late stage burnout is to postpone the game for a period of time, right? And go do something else.
Now, you might not want a game, but you still don't want to hang with the group. So you might just want to cope with something simple. Like, we're just going to get together and we're going to watch a movie, or we're going to chat, or we're going to sit down and have a campfire or dinner, or just hang out together to get that social thing. But depending on what's causing the burnout, you also just might want to take some time away from everyone and say, you know what, I just want to take some weeks off and just not see anyone, not do anything. And that's okay. As long as you understand what you're doing with it, it's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. After you've recovered a bit, then you need to determine.
Well, first of all, do you want to run a game again? You might say, you know what, I just want to run something different. I've got the bug back and let's go. But you might also come back and say, you know what, I just don't want to run for a while. I just want to play. It's much more fun to be a player for me right now. So you know what, I'm just going to play a game and not run anything. Or you might just say, you know what, I just don't want to do any gaming right now. Gaming is taking too much of my energy. I want to stop doing gaming. I'm just going to do some social things with my friends for now.
Mm-hmm.
So any one of those is perfectly acceptable. Yep.
All are valid. But those questions are going to gauge if gaming is still something you're interested in, right? You might still want a game. Like, your burnout might have just been like, I can't GM right now. Like, my life is too busy, but I could totally play something, right? Like, I'm not too busy to show up, on a Sunday night and play. Everything that's stressing me out is like during the work week, that kind of thing. Or, it could be like you are just not interested in gaming. Like, something happened in your game group that has soured the whole experience. And you just you're like, I don't even want to run a game right now. Like, I don't even want to game with anyone. Mm-hmm. If you do want to run a game again, then there's a bit more work that you need to do on your road to recovery, right? Time isn't going to just be enough in most cases, unless the thing is finite. Like, your finals are over, right? Like, if you burned out because finals were coming up, eventually finals will, this semester will end, and then you'll be back to being able to do some gaming. But you really do need to do the work that we talked about before. Like, even if you during this recovery point, you need to figure out why did I burn out? What led to it? It was my game and net negative. Am I overworked? Is work plus home stuff plus, I'm building an addition onto my house is too much, to do. Is it stress? You're, a family member sick and it's, now this is hanging over you kind of thing. You need to do that introspection, just like we talked about before, and figure that out. Because if you just rest and not address the root cause of how your burnout started, there's a good chance it'll just start up again once you take your break. So you'll take your break, you'll start playing again, you'll start burning out again. Then you'll take another break, and then you'll recover, and then it'll all start up again. And eventually you won't run again, because eventually your brain will be like, well, every time I run a game, I burn out. Therefore, I must not like it.
Yep.
So you can't cheat the hard work part of this, which is the introspection and the like looking at what's going on in your life, and sometimes making hard decisions like, do we keep this person in a game or not? Or do I need to switch games because I don't have time to run this game? Even though I love this game, I don't have time to prep 18th level Pathfinder every week right now. Like, it's not happening. I need to play something. I need to run something else if I'm going to be able to run it all. So you gotta you gotta do that extra work. Otherwise you run the chance of just burning out again.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Before we hit the break, we want to talk a little bit about the player side of this. Specifically, what can players do to help with burnout in their GMs? And then we'll talk a little bit about player burnout itself.
First of all, players have to understand that what they can do about GM burnout might be a bit limited. And GM burn is often a function of their life and things going on in it, and nothing to do with the players. But there's still some things that players can do. First, if you see your GM starting to burn out, ask about it. Maybe offer to run a few games if the GM needs to take a few sessions off. You can always help with any in-group issues that have come up, if it's appropriate to do so. Maybe the GM feels stressed having to constantly intercede between two other players, but the third player can take them both aside and talk about it so it doesn't become more of a problem. And be understanding if the GM needs to change games. The GM says, I'm just not enjoying this anymore. I want to go on to something else. Say, okay, if you're enjoying this, let's move on to something else. Understand that. Most of us are there to play, to be with our friends, and there's a way to do this in such a way that everybody feels supported.
Yep.
All right, player burnout. It's entirely possible for a player to burn out. It tends to be more rare, though. And I think we can explain this with the energy cycle. Players don't actually do as much work for a game or during a game, right? If we look at how much work a GM does outside of a game and then during a game, GMs do a lot of stuff, right? I mean, we joke about the 8 skills of a GM during game, but also GMs wind up prepping games. Almost always by default, they're the organizer for the game, those kinds of things. So because players don't actually do as much work, they actually expend very little energy in prep and play. Like maybe they got to level up a character during the week, or maybe they want to, research a spell or two, but that's, it's a small amount of energy. And then they wind up getting energy for playing. So players wind up usually in a large net positive if the game is good, right? Correct. So if the game is good and they're not being stressed by the game, or, and the game's going well, players tend to come out with large net positives. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to get a game to flip to be a net negative. Now, that said, if the game becomes stressful, if there are problems at the table, microaggressions, arguments, those kinds of things, then the table experience itself becomes stressful enough that the game can flip to a net negative, and a player could start to burn out with all of the same signs that we were talking about. Now, likewise, if a player's life becomes overworked or incredibly stressful, it could be, if it reaches a certain level, that that it becomes too much for even playing the game to be enjoyable. Right? Like, for instance, if, well, I don't know, we've talked about so many different things about players' lives, but it's entirely possible that something could happen where a person is like, I can't even enjoy playing right now. Mm-hmm. Being here and not being somewhere else is it's actually making things worse. Those kinds of things. So it is entirely possible that a player can burn out in those ways. And when you do burn out, it's going to be very similar to how GMs burn out. It's going to be that resistance to wanting to do anything about the game, right? That's going to increase. The desire for the game to get canceled increases, right? Like you just like all of a sudden all of a sudden somebody's like, oh, I can't make it. You're like, oh, you know what? We should just cancel the game. Like if John can't make it, like, you know what? Like we shouldn't even play this week. We can just play next week. Right. Like that's the sounds of players who are like kind of burnt on the edges, who are just like, oh, I see an opening. Let's cancel the whole thing.
Yep.
And then ultimately just players being like, I don't want to play. Right. So it's very similar to how GMs deal with or how GMs burn out, and how you solve it is very much the same advice that we've been talking about this evening about introspection and kind of identifying what's wrong and making those, like finding and making those changes.
All right. So this is the first part of a look at GM burnout and a little bit about player burnout. So we're going to check with the chat room in a moment, but first Bob's going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Yeah, I would like to tell you all about Mastering Dungeons. RPG veterans and game designers Teos Abadiah and Sean Merwin look at the game and the hobby of D&D from a variety of viewpoints, reporting the news, understanding the business, reviewing the products, and illuminating the design. Whether you're a fan, a player, a DM, or a designer, Sean and Teos cover topics of interest to you. Give it a shot. I think you'll enjoy the show.
Yeah,
that's some pretty nice copy.
Yeah, I don't know who wrote that, but it's good.
It's pretty snappy. Did Merwin write that? Like,
it's possible.
That's a pretty snappy copy there.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know who wrote it, but somebody should get some credit. We should rewrite ours. I don't think ours is that good.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of shows that could use a freshening of the ad copy.
Yeah. I'm just saying. Yeah. All right.
So
anyway.
Blake Ryan, and welcome back to the show. You haven't been here in a while, or you've been lurking. Blake said, with regard to one blown or one low energy net negative game night is not necessarily the end all of that situation, because rules flow wise, some games don't gel in your head how good they were until later reflection. So you get a couple of sessions in and you're like, oh man, that actually worked really well. In the moment, you don't really feel it. But looking back on it, it becomes clearer. So yeah, like Phil said, we always go with the 4 session rule for a couple of different reasons. You want to give that game time to give it room to breathe, let it gel, explore different aspects of it. If it's something that's got multiple subsystems, you can give it time to hit all of those subsystems, so you've got a little taste of everything. Give it room to breathe. If you're full net negative coming out of 4 sessions, then you definitely want to stop and look back at what's going on and see where you might be able to identify the problems.
Yeah, I mean, aside from burnout, because burnout's definitely a thing, right? But aside from burnout, the decision to kill a game after 1 session is a terrible idea.
Oh yeah.
Any GM can have a bad session.
Yeah.
I have GM'd, I can't even count how many sessions. Any night I could just have a bad session.
Yeah.
Like it could just not work. Like you can't base it on a single occurrence, because anything could happen. You could have eaten something and your stomach's off and you're like trying to run the game, but you're like, you got like a potty emergency in the back of your mind the whole time. Like it's that's my Animaniacs potty emergency reference. But like that thing, but if you're physically not feeling great, like you could just have a shitty night, no matter how good the story it is that you wrote. Like you can never gauge a game on a single session of it.
Yeah. Even if it's you go into a game like everybody at the table is excited because it's a genre, a system, and a story idea that everybody's super excited about, and that first session just kind of runs flat.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, that's not what we were looking for. Let's just walk away. No, there's tons of things that go into what could make a game flat like that. You give it the next session and the next session. And if you're still running flat, then you may have a problem. But if it's something that everybody's super excited about, I can almost guarantee you get into that next session and you're probably going to have a little different experience from that flatness of the first one. So give it time.
I mean, now that said, if you've been running the game for a while, and suddenly it starts feeling flat, like it's entirely possible. And, and this is, I think, what we were talking about off mics before we got started. It's entirely possible that your game has just run its course.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's not GM burnout. That's your GM burnout's like, I don't want to run the game. Like, I don't want to GM a game. Like, it's too stressful to GM a game. A game running its course is like, well, I'm playing this game, but I'm not like, I still want to GM, but I'm not enjoying this game.
Yeah.
And that's another thing you need to tease out. Like, if you're feeling that resistance, because the game having run its course is going to feel fairly similar to the early stages of burnout, where you're just kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't want to really run or prep this thing, or like, I don't know, like, it's all right, I guess, like, we could play it this weekend kind of thing. Like, the part where you have to separate yourself is like, think of, if I was playing another game, would I be more excited right now?
That's why you have to do that introspection. You have to ask yourself those questions. You have to look at what you think is causing your feelings.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the other players at the table too. See how everybody else is feeling about the game. If everybody's like, I feel like we've done enough. We've hit all the high points. We've done what we can do with this. Time to move on.
Yeah, and that's a different thing. That's literally just change your game. Like, that's just your game ran its course. Don't feel bad about it. Games don't have timers on them, and they don't have expiration dates. They just expire.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I tip my hat to those grognards who are like, we've played the same AD&D campaign for 30 years, like 7 generations of characters. Like, good on you guys. But like, I play like 9 months of a game and I'm like, I don't know. Like,
that was the thing when I was in college, is that we played variations of the same campaign for 4 years. And we played anywhere from 1 to 5 times a week with different, we were doing different games. So we had different
college,
different characters. Well, I was also an English major, so I had no homework. And then like I had that Mechton campaign that with various players ran for almost 10 years. And so for me, I always feel bad if a game is like, oh, this game's only been going for like 35, 40 sessions. It's not really a real game yet. That's just, and I've got to get past that, because it's not quantity, it's quality. Because some of those games I ran in college were just, they were fun, but they weren't high quality games. A lot of them evolved from, I was bored in my room when my players walked in and said, hey, you want to play a game today? I'm like, sure, here, grab an MPC, we're going to start playing a game. And I would just run a game pretty much off the cuff from there. And then an hour later, somebody else walked in, oh, you guys are playing, and sat down and kept playing. This is why we had like 15 different superhero groups going on at the same time. I got smart. I eventually just had them run NPCs they'd already encountered, so I didn't have to come up with a new character. But yeah, I mean, that's you can do that.
Yeah.
It's also the a lot of things like there's nothing wrong with the programmed adventures or the pre-written adventures of the D&D games or the Pathfinder adventure paths, where when you start the game, you expect that you're going to get to level 20 by the time you're done. You're going to play a certain number of modules and sessions, but then it sometimes feels odd if you don't get that way. There's ways to fix that problem as well, which I've done. That's a different topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can get GM burnout just from playing the same game for too long. So.
Yep.
Well, and that's the part where, again, if you've played it too long and you stop getting energy out of it, then it flips.
Yep.
Right? Like, it flips over to net negative or net zero, right? Because net zero is the beginning of a problem, right? Like, if a game is just, if a game's not giving you energy or taking energy away, that's not necessarily a good thing, right? Like, if you're playing games for recreation, not for business purposes, then your games should be giving you back energy.
Yeah. Play to have fun.
Yeah. Anything else going on in that chat room?
Andy said that in their experience, they found player burnout is often from unaddressed interpersonal issues.
Sure.
Which that definitely, I've seen that happen way too many times. And again, you're interacting with other people. You're supposed to be friends, and you're supposed to all be there for the same reason, to have a good time. Got to talk, got to communicate. Like anything, if you're not communicating, you're asking for trouble. So if you've got some kind of a problem with another player, or another player's got a problem with you, you have to talk about it. You have to get it resolved, because otherwise you're just going to mess the table up for everybody else.
You should genuinely like the people you game with. I'm not saying they have to be your best friends.
No.
I'm not even saying they have to be in your circle of friends, but you should like the people you game with.
Yeah.
Like, you should look at them and be like, I like these people. Like, I am happy these people are part of, like, in this sphere of my life.
Yep.
Now, you can do the other messy thing and just, mesh all those together, which is what I've done almost my entire life, which is my friend group is my game group.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. But I think it's but I think, you should genuinely like the people. I would hate to think, and I'm sure it's true, that there are people who are like, I want to play D&D and I play with these people, but like, I wouldn't have these people over to my house.
Exactly.
Right. Like I genuinely like everybody like that we game with.
Yep.
My first game group back here in Buffalo, years before I met any of you or even the group that was before this group. The very first group I had when I met here was kind of it was an ambush group, first of all, because I was being invited to come play in a game, and I got there like, oh, you're the GM. But after I played with them for a couple of weeks, I began to realize I would not want to hang out with any of these people outside of the group. And I don't think they'd want to hang out with me. It's just that we were different kinds of people with different motivations and everything else. And that's when I began to realize that, when we get to the end of this adventure, we're done. I'll run till the end of this.
Yeah.
And then I don't really want to game with any of, we just kind of broke the group up. And I did have them to my house, and a couple of them made some rather interesting comments, we'll say, for the after show. But it was those kind of things. So sometimes these days I would I like the idea of just hanging out with any of there's not a single person that I game with right now that I wouldn't just have a good time hanging out with outside of the game.
Yeah.
And just hanging out, going places, the kind of person that if they call me up at 2 a.m. and say, I've got an emergency, I'll be there 5 minutes later with my car to take them wherever we got to go, kind of thing. And I know they'd be there the same way. It works a lot. I'll probably tell the after show. I'll tell you the story about Bob and Breakout Con that really hit me in the field. I'll tell that in the after show. So go ahead. Next topic.
All right. Time to jump back in. We are going to continue our GM Burnout segment with our roundtable discussion, starting with this question.
Sorry, I'm answering something for Schmitty in the chat room. Okay, question number 1. Name a time when you've suffered from GM burnout, and what was the cause?
Right now, my Eberron games have put on hold several times because of scheduling, and it's nobody's fault. It's just I'm just not excited about the system or the storyline we're in. We're just kind of fizzing out. Part of that is just because we've had so many breaks in the game that week-to-week enthusiasm that you get has just kind of waned. The last session I ran did not go well, and it was my fault, not theirs. I wasn't as prepared for it as I should have been. I didn't prep for it enough. As a result, the plot just kind of fell apart. And I'm not I will definitely want to run it for everybody if they want to play it. But at the same time, I'm like, when this story's over, I think we might be done. I enjoy the players. I enjoy the characters. When we do get together, they do a really good job. But the adventures I'm running just aren't meshing as well. I can tell I'm running these adventures, and every single one I'm like, there's problems with this adventure. And as a GM, I know that we often see the faults in our own creations more than anybody else does, but it's just too glaring. And the system itself isn't holding up to continuous play with players, especially other game designers, and we're going to finding all the like this isn't working. This is part of why the crunchiness of the game isn't working to tie us back into this week's pandas. So it's just I've got GM burnout on it, and I realize it because while I get ready to run every time we play, the first time somebody's like, "Well," I'm like, "Yeah, I guess we don't play this week." I'm never quite super relieved, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm empathetic about it at this point. I'm like, yeah, it would have been fun to play, but if we don't play, I'll do something.
So you think you're probably like an early burnout?
I'm probably mid burnout.
Mid? Okay. Are you burnt out from GMing, or you think you're just burned out of this game?
Burned out of this game, and specifically the game, not the players.
Yeah. So switching game, you think will probably pull you back out of this?
Yeah, but I gotta find something that's gonna work
Phil,
for everybody. And
you're drifting off camera, Phil.
Oh, sorry. I'm sitting poorly because I'm queer, so I can't sit properly in a chair. So I started drifting. Hang on, I'll sit back in the proper configuration. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
Usually it's Jerry that fades.
Yeah, it's always Jerry. So hopefully my new chair will fix that problem.
No, I was leaning to one side. I was like sitting all Captain Kirk, Riker, that kind of thing.
So anyway, that's how it is, and it's like I said. Everybody's commenting. We do bicker about the rules. Thing is, we're not bickering about the rules. We all agree. We don't argue about the rules. We all agree the same thing. This rule sucks.
Yeah.
And this rule sucks. And we're not really sure. For a while, we talked about like, well, maybe we should just come up with a fix for this. We got to the point where we're like, you know what? It's just not worth fixing. And there are some issues with the game. And so we'll just probably finish this little story arc and wrap it up just so they're not left hanging with a murder mystery on their hands. Because I do hate that. I hate leaving players halfway through a cliffhanger. And then wrap it up from there. Or just discuss what was actually going on and wrap it up. One or the other two. But that's pretty much it.
Now that you've seen Heat, I'm like De Niro when it comes to bad games. Like, you got to be, I'm prepared in 30 seconds to walk out on any game that isn't working. Like, mid-story, ain't working? We don't have to finish playing this game.
Yep.
There's no need to prolong this. You guys ain't having fun? We're done.
Yeah.
Let's go get another game off the shelf. We're good.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. All right. So, Bob?
Yeah, so I got burned out running my 4E game. We were all having fun with it. The table was enjoyable. The high after the game was usually there. It was net positive for quite a while. And when I started, I was very excited about cutting out, I was printing out on cardstock the maps from the adventures, and I was making tokens for all the monsters, and it was a ton of bits and bobs prep work before the game. And when I started, I was very excited about it. We got a year into that thing, and it got to the point where it's like, oh, I got to cut out terrain for the, and they don't have monsters for this week. I got to make monsters for this week. And I was like, and then it flipped. Net negative.
So that actually brings up a good point, that it's entirely possible that nothing changes in the game, but you can just stop deriving excitement out of certain things from a game over time. Like, sorry, just going to reseat myself here. So like in the beginning, it's like you said, right? Like you were getting a lot of energy, like cutting and prepping, all that stuff was fun. But then like one day it's just like, I'm doing it again, right? Like, and that's the, it's just like when you do something repetitive, like it stops being fun. And I think, Jerry, that's the same thing you're running into because you're playing Savage Worlds, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, my experiences with Savage Worlds is that I love initially running Savage Worlds. And then after a certain period of time, I'm like, well, I feel like I've played this entire game system. Like, I feel like I've played everything that could be played in this game. Anything else I play from this point on is just like I've already played. Like I've already played through all these mechanics.
I think part of the problem is that Savage Worlds would be a good fit for Eberron if I ran a more action-oriented campaign. And I did not.
Oh, and that's the case where the system may not be the best.
And Savage Worlds can handle lots of, like investigation and storytelling and that. The new version kind of screwed some of that up, the newest edition, because they got rid of some skills and combined some others, and they just made some very generic everyman skills. But so it means that being an investigator becomes less of a specialized thing, which if that's what you're trying to do, doesn't work. So it's the fact that when I wrote the original game, I had a different group of players, and they were all very action oriented. And so I had some adventures written that were very kind of hack and slash, and then the new players were action focused, but also had a lot of really good role playing hooks and character hooks and background hooks to play with. And then we added Schmitty, who was even better and came up with a really amazing consultant detective, and but some really good stories. But it's a different situation, and because I was kind of adapting some of the pre-written modules, some of them aren't. The more I read, I'm like, there's big flaws in this. Like, there's a great. Like, I love the idea of everybody after going undercover in a masquerade, but the rest of the adventure is kind of silly. And that becomes a problem as you look at it more and more that it was written for 3.5. So
when you look at game systems, like there's that complaint that like, oh, you can't do that with D&D. Like, you can run any kind of game you want with pretty much any game system out there you want, but some systems are better suited for certain types of games. D&D has always been a combat-oriented system. Okay, Savage Worlds is fast, furious fun. It's on the freaking label. Okay, that's what it's made for. If you're gonna do a very introspective, character-driven, heavy drama like interaction thing, Savage Worlds is really not the system that you want to play. You can do it.
It is not.
Yes, you can do it, but you really don't want to.
But you're fighting the system at that point.
Exactly. You're fighting against the system. And say what you want. I love me some D&D. D&D is a colonizer system. You're supposed to go in there, hack the crap out of some poor bastard, steal their shit, and then get rich off of it and level up. That's the way the game is made. Okay? Can you do other stuff with it? Yes. But if you're doing other stuff with it, you're going against the grain, and eventually the system's going to be fighting against you. So, while yes, play what you want to play, if you enjoy it, perfect. I am never going to argue with someone who says, we've been doing a deep character drama thing with like no dice rolling ever and using Savage Worlds. If you're enjoying it, perfect.
Yep.
Chef's kiss. Enjoy it. Have fun. But if you're sitting there going, oh, why are we having so much trouble with this? Stop and think about it. If you're fighting the system, you might want to look elsewhere. But that is diverting from our topic of burnout. So back to me. Yes, the 4E game, I burned out on prep. I got tired of doing all of that prep work that I was doing. We were having fun with the game itself. When we sat down at the table, everything was great. But eventually, the prep negative outweighed the positives I was getting from it. And I was like, I got to stop. I got to put this game on the shelf. And everybody was like, okay, that's cool. And then somebody else started GMing and I sat back and just played again. So, Phil, where's yours?
Mine's actually pretty recent. And it may have been preventative, not actual burnout, which was my recent move. So having come off the tail end of a whole bunch of work, which I was managing, running my games and working, like I had managed a nice balance to keep all my games running. But coming up on the move last month and all the prep work for the move, like packing and buying stuff and all the things. I mean, you're doing it right now, Bob. I realized I was like, if I run these games on Sundays, my 2 sessions, right? I have one, I run every Sunday, bi-weekly, 2 different groups. If I have to prep these and run these while all this other stuff is going on, like I'm going to burn out. Like this will be the overwork part because I'm going to be exhausted from packing and moving boxes over to the apartment all week long. I'm going to burn out. And so preemptively, I just was like, hey, let's not do this.
Yeah.
let's just take a break till August. And I will, and this is the temporary thing, right? So everything's going to pass. And in August, I will come back refreshed and settled and ready to like go back to playing some games.
Yeah.
And then this way I won't be burnt out from GMing. I won't be burnt out of the games.
Right. The move.
Yep.
Right. Like I will be like, the move will be over and I will be settled and calm. And so, yeah, that was it. Like I felt the verge of it. And I just like, I knew it was going to be overwork, right? Like I knew I was like, I know what's going to happen because I made this big list of work that I needed to do in order to move out. And I was like scheduling it out in Trello. Like every week I was putting a block of cards in my Trello queue and like, okay, these got to be worked on this week and queue up the next ones and that kind of thing. And I just knew like, this is a recipe for disaster. If I just kind of like, well, I'm just going to push on through like, and just, I'll prep stuff while I'm physically exhausted. And so I just didn't, and it was so much better. Like I'm in a very good mental place about all the games that like the 2 games that we have running, in a very good mental place. My feelings and thoughts about GMing are still very positive.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, come August, I'm ready to start running some games.
Now, the way you worded the work part seemed like you were dismissing it, but you were under a lot of stress from work with those projects that were all wrapping up.
Oh, I was.
We could tell that you were under a lot of stress.
Oh, I totally was. But I was managing my games because I had shrunk all of my encoded work down to next to nothing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the thing I've been burning out on for a while was the show. The show was actually becoming a bigger drain than running games. And again, that was from the stress of everything going on during the week.
Yeah. Because
the week is when I usually start. So there's a process for prepping a show, which starts with Wednesday after the show. We start thinking of the next topic.
Okay.
And then on my schedule of things, in order for me to have a show ready by Tuesday, I need to be writing that show on a Friday. And with work, I was so tired come the end of Friday that I was resenting having to sit and write the notes for the session. And then compounded by that, if we didn't come up with a topic before Friday, then it's Friday and I don't have a topic to write with. It's even worse, right? So I was actually burning out harder on the show. I had gotten the gaming stuff down where I was like doing my prep work, and I, do a little prep work 2 nights a week. One of them's on a Saturday. So it was always like, I'm always going to have time to get this prep work ready for this game. And truthfully, like the way I run stuff and the way we play stuff is like, once I prep a thing, that's like usually 2 to 3 sessions worth of material.
Yeah.
So it's like I got to work hard this week, but then for like the next 6 weeks, I just got to like touch up what I have and just keep it running.
Yep.
So yeah, I did. So you're right. Work was incredibly busy, but it wasn't turning any of my games into a net negative.
Right.
The show was becoming a net negative for me. And that was tough because, I can tell you guys that we can take some time off from gaming and come back, but there's a fear about the show pod fading.
Yeah. And
I didn't want to have frequent times off. Mm-hmm. So I did just barrel through. I did just barrel through a lot of show prep. Mm-hmm. Okay. We should change. Let's jump into our second question.
Yeah.
All right. Question 2. When you're burnout recovering, do you like time with or away from the gaming group?
So I've done both. When I did have that GM burnout, I was fine coming to the table to play most of the time. There was one campaign that I was GMing. It didn't last a super long time, but I was having a lot of stress and for various reasons. And I just was like, you know what? I gotta step away. And I walked away from the one game group for a couple of months. and just didn't play or run anything. I was just like, I gotta walk away. And that was hard because, that's like, these are my friends that I see every week. And I was like, you know what, this particular game, you guys run something, I gotta walk away. But after I was away for a while, I got, refreshed and everything like that, came back ready to go. But that was right around the time where I was making the decision that like GMing just isn't doing it for me because I'm not super good at it for various reasons. I've had some bad experiences with most of the games that I've GM'd did not go as well as the 4E game. The 4E game was really the pinnacle of my GMing. And I just got to the point where I was like, I'm just not going to GM anymore. And I walked away from GMing and said, I'll just stay, I'll play. What about you, Phil?
Yeah, typically I will tend to retreat when I need to recover. Like I'm an introvert for the most part. So like when I need to recover, like I need to just get away from people, kind of turtle up and just play some video games, read, something like that. Also part of it, and this is just a bad habit of mine, is that if I'm taking time off from gaming and we're hanging out, I will often feel like I'm letting people down by not running stuff. Like, and that's not that that's how people treat it, but that's how, like, that's my own mental hangups about it. Like, you should have just done it. Like, you should have just pushed through and gotten a game out. Yeah. But now we're all sitting around and there's no game because you didn't run it, which is excessively harsh. Right. Yeah. And so if anything for a few years of therapy has taught me is to not be as harsh to myself. So like this time when I preemptively stopped the games, we've gone and hung out together and I've done it guilt free. Yep. Like I'm just good. Like, nope, it's fine. Like it's fine because I made myself okay with that. I'm not letting anyone down. We are all hanging out. We're having a good time. I don't actually need to retreat. I just don't have the time to do this.
Right.
Yeah. So, I tend to like, that's when I double down on Minecraft. Right. And if I'm really burnt out on things, like, I don't like getting on Mumble. I just don't want to people.
Yeah.
But that is also a slippery slope because the longer that happens, the weirder I get. Right. So then like if I do that too long, then it's like, well, I don't think people really want to hear from me. I should definitely not go on Mumble. I don't think anyone likes me. Like it becomes this downward spiral. So there is a limit to how much isolation I'm allowed to have before I have to just put myself back in the world. Otherwise I will go full on Howard Hughes. Right, like I'll just get weirder and weirder and start collecting my pee in jars and stuff. Like,
can't have that.
Right,
that went a different direction.
And we're not doing that. All right, Jerry, what about you? What's your path for recovering?
Well, either run something else or play something else. I want to game and hang with friends. I'm the opposite. I'm actually not all that extroverted, despite what I do for a living. But with the people I do care about, I want social contact with them. And my wife knows this. There were times when she would say things to me like, back when the game stores were open, she'd say, you haven't gamed in 2 weeks. You should go to a game, you should go to the game store, go do something, go find a game to play, go hang out with people, go do something fun. Just because, she's not trying to get rid of me, because she understands that that's part of my support network, that I draw energy from the friends that are around me I'll I don't care if we go watch a movie and hang out or if we just sit and talk game theory or we play a board game or something. But I want to do something. If I'm not gaming and running something myself, I want to go do something else that's in that same vein because it's part of what gives me spoons and keeps me more active. And I do know that I will get into a downward spiral if I don't have that kind of social interaction, especially since my other job means that I have to kind of control everything I do, what I say and how I talk and so on. So being able to be with people who you can be yourself with makes a huge difference. And gaming is part of it. So that's just my thing.
Yep.
So.
Cool.
All right.
Question 3. Have you ever burned out as a player?
I don't think I have, because I don't play enough games, right? I predominantly run games. Like I occasionally play in other people's games, but I primarily run games. So I don't think I've ever burned out. Although, Bob, I looked at your answer, and I think that's the closest I have also almost burnt out. So I'll save it for you to talk about. But I was in that game with you, and that's the closest I think I've ever burned out as a player. There are plenty of games where I have not wanted to be in the game anymore. Right? Like I've just there are games that have gone on where I'm like I am no longer enjoying this. Like I'm no longer enjoying this game. Not the people, not the GM, just I'm not enjoying this particular game. And that's different. That's not burning out, because I would if we switch games, I would gladly just keep playing with everybody. I'm not fed up with people. I just didn't like a particular run of a game. Like Glenn's a fantastic GM, but he ran that PBTA game, that sci-fi one, that generational game. I can't remember what it's Life Among the Ashes, or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Why can't I think of the name of it?
Yeah. Legacy. Thank you, Blake.
Legacy, Life Among the Ruins.
Yeah. And I just I love Glenn. Glenn's a great GM. I just did not enjoy that game.
Yeah.
And I don't even think there's anything wrong with the game. It just was it was a game that did not gel with me. And so I went to the sessions and I was like, man, I'm playing the game, but it wasn't hugely fun during that period of time. And again, I would play anything else that Glenn offered to run, because Glenn's great.
Yep.
So, okay. That's me.
All right. For me, this actually happened quite a bit. I've been in quite a few games over the last 40 years where a game just doesn't engage enough, or the campaign isn't going where the GM implied it would. Here's a romance game. This is a game about romance. And there was no romance at all in the game for 12 weeks. A game where you're building characters based on city, and you build city-based characters, and then you get yanked out and spend all your time in dungeon crawls, that sort of thing. That's lost me. Sometimes you just don't feel the character. You're playing a game and you're like, I just don't really care. I've been in games where I'm like, I don't care if this character lives or dies. This character is miserable.
But let me ask you a question here, because you're talking about games you didn't enjoy playing.
Yeah.
But did you ever reach a point where you just didn't want to play?
No, I wanted to do something else. I've gotten a point where I didn't want to play that game.
Okay. Because then you're a lot like me in that respect, where it's you're not burnt out from playing games. You just are I'm not enjoying this game.
Yep. It's burnt out. Yep. Oh no. Yeah. No, I never get to a point where I'm I wish I had the stamina to pull those, we're going to play from 8 in the morning until sometime tomorrow morning and play like that. Those college game days. I wish I still had that stamina, because I would do that. I would play all the time. And
I would if I was younger.
Yeah.
But I'm old now.
Yeah.
So
no, it's happened. And it's not, and next time, it's not even always the GM, so it's the wrong character, the wrong I've talked about this with some of the video games I've played, where I'm like, I'm playing this video game, but I really don't care about this character at all. And I've had the same thing in a game I've been playing as a role-playing game, where I'm just like, whatever has happened in this game has developed to the point where this character has made choices that now make me not like this character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like the situation. I don't like the scenario. I don't like the campaign. And sometimes, now, to be honest, once in a while, the idea is, I just want to kill this character off and start over. You want to retire them? No, I want them to die horribly. Heroically? No, just have them executed. Get them out of my misery, and we'll start over from scratch.
Right. So to be clear, because I just, me, yeah. I like my definitions.
You do.
To be clear, so you're not really suffering from player burnout. You're just suffering from, I don't like this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. I'm with you, because player burnout's actually pretty hard. And I think Andy actually hit on from the chat room, hit on a really good point about interpersonal problems are actually probably the key to player burnout, not wanting to play. So, Bob, do you want to?
Yeah, but I'm not quiet about that kind of stuff. There's player person.
Jerry will speak up.
I'll come right out and say, you're being an asshat. Stop that, or I'm leaving.
You're harshing my comm here. Knock it off.
Yeah. I'm not subtle about that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So, all right, Bob.
Yeah. So thinking about my answer, it's borderline. It's leaning more towards I just was tired of that game and would have gladly played something else. But there was an element of like, I'm just tired. Like, and that was, we were playing Pathfinder. We were doing the Kingmaker campaign path. And there were some group dynamics that really weren't working. And it's Pathfinder. So it was the super crunch was starting to wear on me. And it was
in the beginning, it was exciting.
Yeah.
Like I remember we were all excited in the beginning, but yes, I had a very similar experience.
Yeah,
I had that problem with every Pathfinder game. It's really good for the first 3 or 4 adventure paths, and I just burn out on it.
Yeah. I don't even remember how many sessions we played it at, but it was a good like dozen maybe. And it was just like, it got to the point where it's like, I don't want to be here for this session.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Oh, somebody canceled? They can't make it? Oh, we shouldn't play.
Oh, yeah.
Did you make it as far as the village that disappeared in the undead Cyclops Lich guy?
I think we did.
Remember.
Okay.
It's
That's a good.
so
That was when I thought the story was still going on. I really wanted to play that. Well, we only played the first half the first adventure path, and then that fell apart.
All right, but that was it for me. So,
all right, that's our topic on GM Burnout.
We hope this advice helps you to avoid or recover from burnout, keeps you behind the screen, or at the very least, keeps you gaming.
There you go. So we're going to check in with the chat room one more time and then head on over to the conversation corner and do the thing. Oh, fun, right? What does Andy got here? One 4E game, player A refused to tell me how uncomfortable player B was making them, and then player A tanked the game instead of talking to me about it. Yeah, like, come on, let's not be children. If you're in this game, there's the supposition that you're all in it together. You're all there to have fun. You're all there to play the game. So let's talk. And player C blamed them and would not play with them again. So yeah, okay. That's a group that needed to implode and just go their own separate ways. That's
some groups do not work well.
Yeah, some groups just don't gel. When you do, I'm spoiled right now. I've got every table that I sit at, virtual or otherwise, is just a joy to be playing with. Yep. Everybody in their own way is bringing it, and it's a good time. So I'm so spoiled.
Yeah, I have no regrets. Every table I've got, I'm like, I love everybody at this table.
Yep.
I even have a few games queued up where I'm like, I already love these people.
Yep.
I'm not even playing with them yet, but I already know who I'm playing with, so I love these people too. Yeah.
All right. Let's do the thing where we go to the place. All right, so it's this is going to be a recurring theme for a while for me because of the timeline for my house move in my condo. But doing a lot of cleaning and packing. I've got a ton of stuff to do still. There's a quantity of stuff to do, but I don't have a lot of stuff in general. One thing that I have to do this week and next week is I need to gather up all the old tech because there's a recycling event not far from here on the 16th of July that I need to go take old PCs and I've got 2 old TiVos. I've got an old DVD player. I've got, stuff like that. And I just need to gather that all up and take it to this recycling event, drop it off and be like, your problem, not mine, and walk away. So I've got to get all that stuff. The most interesting part of that is I have, in its original packaging, I still have my Apple IIgs from 1980.
Dude, you can't get rid of that.
I have to get rid of it. All right. At one point,
go look on eBay.
I tried to find somebody that was like a collector or whatever. Like, I don't have any of the discs anymore. So there's no software to run on it. It's just hardware. And nobody wants it without a disc. Like, do you have a game? Like, no. All the discs are gone. they went in a purge at some point because I didn't think it would become a problem to have a device that you couldn't do anything with. I look, oh, these are floppy disks. I don't need these anymore. And they went, not realizing that, if I had packaged them together with this device 2-3 years ago, I could have gotten rid of it and maybe even sold it for something. So yeah, I've got the Apple II GS. I've got a printer, an Apple Writer printer. Like all this stuff's got to get unboxed. All the packaging needs to be sent into the normal recycling, and then the physical hardware's got to go to this recycling event to be taken care of. So that's going to be a good chunk of the next week and a half.
Well, I'm just looking at some of these eBay prices on an Apple II GS. Like, these ain't bad. I don't know if they're selling, but
it's the classic conundrum. Like with my Magic cards, with all my football cards, I've got football cards. I got a comic book collection, and it's like, oh, that's worth money, and it's like, it's only worth money if someone will hand you money for it and take it off your hands. If it's just sitting there, it ain't worth nothing.
That's why I've always said with stuff like that on eBay, you always look at eBay one of three ways. This is something that I would really want to keep it, but if it's worth this much, I'll sell it. There's stuff you're like, you know what, this is worth something. If I get this much, I'll be happy with it. And then there's, get it the hell out of my house.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're like, you know what? I know it's going for $300 on eBay. I'm going to put it up for $20 plus shipping and handling, and stuff. And then you might suddenly see people bidding it up to whatever.
I don't even have the energy to put it up on eBay and say somebody give me shipping for it. Like, I don't even have that energy left. So it's it's all going. It's fire sale. It's walking out the door. So
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. That being said, I'm maintaining my sanity with good TV, playing Valheim with Jerry, and amazingly enough, I've been over to Phil's place like 3 times now. In the week and a half, 2 weeks he's been there, I've already been over there three times. So it's like old hat now.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah,
it's nice having you guys over.
It's a nice place.
Yes. What about you, Jerry?
Well, Valheim, of course, has been my big release. It's been a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of we're into a new biome, so things are dangerous and horrible. And I went out one time, and I think I died 9 times in one night. Often just dying trying to get back to my body. But it's been a lot of fun, and we're doing some cool stuff. And the storytelling is still neat. Chris came on this weekend, and we made another major achievement, and then died. Part of the fun of having Chris come on is Chris comes on, we almost always end up with, we can try that, but it's a really stupid thing to do. Well, then let's try it, and things happen, which is good. Been enjoying Loki and the Bad Batch. This week's Rick and Morty was killing. And I've also been cleaning. I've been doing a lot of just trying to get the basement rec room kind of put back together again, buying a bunch of shelves, just a lot of physical stuff. So I'm not an outdoorsy type, so this is about as tan as I get. So this whole weekend being hot and sunny outside was no incentive at all for me to do anything. I think the most sun I got was just going back and forth between the garage and the house. But it's been fun though. Bill?
Yeah, for me, the bulk of my week has been settling into the apartment, unpacking boxes and just kind of figuring out how everything, works, like where do I cook stuff and how do I cook stuff? And, I will say my, my Ninja Foodie air fryer, is the bomb. Like, I've used my microwave a few times this past 8 or 10 days. I have used that Foodie, I think, every day.
Air fryer for life, man.
Air fryer for life. The other day I went out to Trader Joe's and bought just a bunch of random stuff. I bought stuff for you guys coming over, but I also bought myself this the Mandarin orange chicken from Trader Joe's, which, by the way, chef's kiss, delicious. So the first time I made it, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to follow the directions. And I made it in the oven, and it comes with these sauce packets. So you actually mix up the sauce and then toss the fried chicken into the sauce to serve it. And so I was like, okay, next time, absolutely, I'm air frying the chicken and I'll just heat up the sauce on the stove.
Mhm.
But I had leftovers. And I remember Jerry telling me that leftover Chinese food, especially breaded Chinese food, is fantastic in the air fryer. So I threw it on some parchment paper and tossed it in the air fryer. And Jerry, you did not lie. It was delicious when I heated it back up. So
leftovers become exciting with an air fryer. I'll tell you.
I heated up pizza in it. It was delicious. Like, man, there isn't anything that air fryer isn't awesome at. And I saved myself a lot of hassle. I got myself perforated, pre-cut parchment paper that fits my air fryer basket. So like now, like cleanup is even easier because I just like throw a parchment paper in, throw the food in, cook it, pull the parchment paper out, and like quick wash the basket. It's great. Anyway, not to go overboard on that.
I just gonna tell you one thing. If you're gonna do stuff in the air fryer, you go out to restaurants and you always end up with like that one little roll or bread or that you like what you take it home, put it in the fridge, wrap it in tin foil and put it in
throw it in the air fryer.
Oh, leftover Texas Roadhouse bread is amazing 2 days later.
There you go. I have gotten to watch some things. So like, cause I also have a new television. So, I've been watching Loki. In fact, I just caught up to Loki, before dinner tonight. That was a hell of an episode. I've been, obviously watching Voyager along the way. We watched Heat. We had a movie night. I started watching Lower Decks. I'm like a handful of episodes into Lower Decks. Cause I was like, oh, I can just watch this on my TV now. So I've been like, picking an episode here and there.
And what do you think?
Oh, it's fun. It's totally fun. I love it. It's great. I don't think I've hit any of the iconic episodes yet. The ones I've watched so far have been pretty good. The last one I watched was the one where about the buffer time.
Oh yeah.
That was good. So anyway, I've been watching that. That's been enjoyable. So all of that's actually going really well. And then I got my first official game in the apartment with Game of Fiasco. So Tony and Glenn and Bob came over. That's my usual iHunt group. But again, since we're on hiatus, I was like, I don't have time to prep anything. But like now that I have all my stuff out, like all my games are on my game shelf and things like that, I was like, oh, I have Fiasco and that's no prep. So I was like, why don't you guys just come over? Let's play some Fiasco. And so we played Fiasco on Sunday night, had a great time. Fantastic.
Gloriously
romp.
Horrible.
Yes. Fantastic romp of some really strange people and in some really strange circumstances. So it was good. It was good. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun playing it, and it was great having you guys around the table again. And also, like, I just wanted to see that space actually as a gaming space.
Yep.
It had so far just been like my dining room table, but it totally works. Like, it totally works as a gaming space, and it's great. So, yeah, all in all, like, I'm super pleased with where the apartment is at this point. Like, I still need to hang stuff on walls. And I have a whole collection of things to hang on walls, and then I'll need to go buy some more stuff. But I didn't want to do that until everything was kind of in its place, so that I could then start figuring out like what's missing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm getting there. My couch will be the next big thing. My couch arrives in August, and I will be. Then I will I will start finalizing things around the house once I get that in place. So yeah, that's me.
Cool.
All
right. Well, that brings us to our Patreon shout-outs. Thank you for being our patrons to Joe Rasso, John, MT Black, Matthew Petrozelli, Mike Olson, Padme's Lover, Robert Dorgan, Ryan Bolter, Texas Bento, and Troy Pitchelman. And thank you to everyone for listening tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
If you can't make it to the live show, check out our podcast each week, wherever you get your podcasts. You can take a listen to their shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as They're a Super Geek, Mastering Dungeons, Bone Sword Obsidian, the FM Gamers, Panda Talking Games, the Gnome Cast, Jungle Hustle, The Lounge, Bonus Experience, and back episodes of She's a Super Geek. You can and should also check out sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
Before your hesitation turns into full-blown burnout, leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly via email, mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Check us out on Twitter. The show and the network is at Misdirected Mark. He is Robert M. Everson. He is GM Gerrymander, and I am DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. Zhangu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhangu Hustle, and Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Bamboo Lounge, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Include Designs. Mic drop.
We out.